I have this imaginary picture of what the Palouse must have looked like hundreds of years ago.
Soft white wheat was $4.90 a bushel, and that's below break-even point to produce it. So obviously, it's not very attractive as an enterprise if you're going to be sustainable.
We knew that, we'd been into the CRP program for several years, and at some point it could come to an end. What do we do at that point?
Beefing up the Palouse is one of the Ag Pilots projects that's designed to look at the economic viability of grazing CRP as an alternative to either continuing into CRP or going back into crop. A lot of acres of CRP coming out of program in the next few years, and we thought this would be a good idea to see if there is a good alternative to what the current alternatives are.
One figure that I've seen is that there's somewhere between 32 and 39 million acres in CRP in the United States. There's 1.5 million acres in CRP in Washington, and in Adams County there's about 214,000 acres. In 2016, most of the contracts expire, and a lot of people would like to get out from under these government programs and come up with something that's self-sufficient, sustainable. And we certainly don't want to see 15 to 20 years of conservation work go for naught and have these highly erodable marginal farm grounds plowed up and planted to grain again, where you're going to have 20 plus tons per acre of soil erosion a year. So we're looking for viable alternatives that not only will produce revenue that will be sustainable or at least viable, but protect the resource.
You can continue to put it into CRP, although that's at the discretion of the government, and we're not always sure exactly what that's going to be. Farming it again in grains is probably one of the main options. This land was fairly marginal in the beginning. It wasn't the best land that was taken out. So the return probably not going to be as good as the land was that wasn't put into the program. The other option is to do nothing with it, and if you don't have a contract or any other form of income off of it, you'll just end up paying taxes on it.
Non-use is not the best alternative strategy to provide a sustainable resource out here, which includes not only the environmentally sound situation, but the economically viable to being able to live on the land and also create jobs in healthy rural communities.
In 2013, we'll be a centennial farm here. Yeah, it means pretty much everything to us. It's a heritage we like to continue and pass on to the next generation. Originally it was a wheat ranch, and by that I mean there were livestock here, and there was also, of course, wheat raised. And that probably carried on for maybe 50 years, and as time went on, livestock somewhat disappeared out of the equation. So as the farms got of course bigger through time, the fences disappeared, the farming operation got bigger and bigger, and today we're running about 6,000 acres here. Well, this project came about years ago as we went into the CRP program. We went into them because growing wheat was basically a break-even proposition, 12 years ago. And now I can't see that it's a lot better. I think today wheat market is $4 a bushel at Portland. It costs about $5.88 to produce it. So everyone's relying on a lot of the federal crop crop insurance programs to carry them through this. We knew that, we'd been into the CRP program for several years, and at some point it could come to an end. What do we do at that point? So we wanted to try and prepare ourselves for an option to have at the end of these expiring CRP contracts. We started out with the idea that, hey, if some of the neighbors are grazing livestock down here on some channeled scabland pastures that may have, from 500 to 1,000 pounds per acre of dry matter, maybe we could do this on an area that had been seeded grass and might have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pounds of dry matter on it. So let's give it a shot.
For these hills to be as steep as they are and not erode, it seems to me like there must have been a very diverse, robust root system in place in all of the hillsides throughout the Palouse and probably all of eastern Washington. Otherwise, it would have eroded away thousands of years ago. But they didn't. They're still here. For those big root systems to be in place, that means that there was also a lot of grass growing here. And if there were a lot of grass growing here, there would have been a lot of large animals grazing on that grass. And if there were a lot of large animals, there would have been a lot of predators, probably grizzly bears and cougars. Nature has evolved over millions of years with predators and prey. And that relationship makes large animals stay in tightly bunched herds and move. So there would have been a natural cycle established in coordination with the seasonal cycles, the growing cycles, and there would have been a grazing cycle. And large animals would have migrated through here and it would have been pursued by predators. And that would have, over the years, that would have affected the way the grasses grew. Once that stopped, in the late 1800s, the Palouse started to erode. And we're looking at erosion rates that are much better than they were a few years ago due to no-till technology, but are still really unacceptable in terms of long-term sustainability. And so this whole project has been an effort to mimic those natural processes and those natural cycles. And so we mimic the predator-prey relationship with hot wire. We confine animals to a small area, move them often, and give the grass a long period to rest. And that's really it in a nutshell.
Well, one, we were able to demonstrate with the planned grazing program the ability to generate about $50 an acre income based on contract grazing at 34 cents on the gain. Cattle performed quite well from about April to July. One of the problems with the CRP, it's been under contract for 15 plus years, is a lot of decadent material, bare ground, wolfy plants.
And that standing dead grass is full of nutrients. But those nutrients are sitting there in the air. They're not down in the soil where they could be used by microorganisms. The hoof action of the cows, it keeps the old grass down in contact with the soil surface. That helps cycle the nutrients, but it also holds water in place and makes a good seed bed for new seedlings. We see new grasses coming in constantly. So the growth is considerably more significant on the grazed part of the fence lines than the CRP areas are. It appears that every year we're getting more and more plant production.
A lot of the benefits that we're beginning to see is along the lines of wildlife. There'll be from 500 to 700 head of mule deer on the property at most any given time. And that alfalfa and the wheat grasses create some very good habitat for upland birds. We're very hopeful that this program will not only allow us to keep in place all the environmental benefits that CRP has provided, yet at the same time we'll be able to produce beef on this same ground. So overall, I think it'll be a win-win situation compared to given prices for wheat at present. So this particular beefing up the Palouse project has had quite an impact on us. It falls in line with our holistic goals. We feel that through time that this will have a phenomenal environmental impact on the land that we've been fortunate enough to farm here for the last 100 years. What we're seeing is a tremendous amount of reduced erosion. In the wintertime when the ground is frozen up and you get some of these winter rains, we'll see a little bit of water coming out of some of these draws, but it's clear. It isn't moving the soil like it was when it was in summer fall over wheat production. Also, when some of these huge dust storms will hit across the country, you'll see a lot of dirt that's moving around other parts of our farm, but it isn't moving here like it anywhere near that it had before. The other things also are the benefit of keeping maybe some of the young people who are on the ranch. has the potential to provide jobs, boost the economy, and hopefully, down the road, maybe replace some or all of the CRP programs. So it's a win-win scenario, I think, for a lot of us. It's a program that's got a lot of potential. It's got a lot of options if one gives it a real chance. So, like I say, if anybody is interested at all, I think it's something that's really worth considering, especially, for those that do have maybe a younger generation that they'd like to pass some ground to and a heritage on to. A lot of potential here, so certainly worth taking a look at.
And I think if we're able to do that, and I don't know how many years it's going to take, but my theory is that we can totally duplicate natural cycles. You could get this place to be back the way it was 200 or 300 or 400 years ago. That's my vision. That's where I want to see things go ultimately. Now, I don't mean to say wheat shouldn't be grown in the Palouse, because we've got some really good ideas on how to incorporate both. But that's the system that I want to see happen, and that's or at least I want to learn about how it works, because at some point I have a belief that their oil will not be here, and that if there's no oil here, there's no fertilizer, and then how are we going to produce crops and food off of this area? And ultimately, all agriculture will have to be sustainable. And because if it isn't, we got to go do something else, like not eat. That's it.